Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Mike and the Mad Dog. Sports Radio 66, WFAN. They're talking sports, going at it as hard as they can. It's Mike and the Mad Dog on the Fan. Nothing can get by 'em. Turn it on and try 'em. Mike and the Mad Dog, WFAN.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? On the Fan on this Wednesday here in New York City. Mike and the Mad Dog back with you at 718-937-6666 until 7 this evening as we talk to you about the world of sports. Should be a good show today. Neil Smith a little bit later on. Leroy Selman a little bit later on, right?
Did you see that movie?
I did not. Kelvin Cohen gave me a little rundown.
There was no way I could have watched it last night. I was asleep in a car driving home to Lido.
I can imagine. And then I had a buddy in, so we went out there gallivanting, so I didn't get
you did?
Well, a little
Where'd you go?
Well, the Tucker's there, nobody there. Boom, walked out. Now
why don't you show them a place that actually has people?
Don't say that. You're getting Ernie all upset.
You're gonna give them a bad idea about what New York's about. Take them to a place where there's actually people.
I take him to Vagabondo. That's a great little place.
You give them salad? Tuggers?
No, we didn't need suckers. We walked in, boom, nobody there.
Nobody there, huh?
No, I shouldn't say it. So we had some fun there, but Leroy Selman a little bit later on today, or maybe Krzyzewski. No, you put a call in, right?
I did not put a call
Mike,
in.
let's go.
I never called him.
I said great things about you on Monday to get you on for Wednesday, and so far no dice.
I have always had a good relationship with him.
He's
always
a good guy.
gotten along.
And he has always been very, very good with the media. I can remember having him on the day before the Georgetown Duke game a couple of years ago, right here on the Fan.
You see guys who grow in their role as far as being I remember when Mike first went to the Final Four. I've done 10 in a row, okay, for CBS, and have watched all the press conferences, although I didn't go to his Sunday press conference this year, as a matter of fact. The first one I remember missing. But he has grown from being a very shy, always very courteous and everything, but very shy and straight-laced, to being actually very funny in the press conferences. He handles it. He's got it, he's got his whole Polish routine down, which he goes with all the time, and, like when he got up at the banquet on Thursday night, he said, I'm not going to speak long because I'm not supposed to be here long. We're playing UNLV on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a good point. So he's out of there first round, so that's it. He's a good guy, though. He's come a long way, and obviously, Knight made a lot of money penning some articles for a newspaper in Indianapolis, and he was in Arizona all weekend. I mean, how weak is that?
Knight was gone. He was with Tony La Russa.
And wasn't he ghost? He was in the A's camp, wasn't he?
I doubt he made a lot of money, though, doing it.
Ripping sports writers, and all of a sudden he's taking up the beat.
I know it was Bob Knight who said, all of us learn how to write in third grade, then most of us move on to other things.
That's the great line out of Knight.
I'm going to have to send him that little saying back to him on one of those articles he read. I didn't see any of them.
You didn't see the Indianapolis paper, weren't they? Or was it Bloomington?
I don't think it must have been the Bloomington, because I didn't see him in the Indianapolis paper. Unless it was any other Indianapolis paper. I only saw the Star. There is the Indianapolis News also. I only saw the Star when I was in town.
And everybody making a big deal now here about this Tarkanian UNLV situation, about who's going to win this long battle.
This is a war. This is a war between the president and
cover
Tarkanian.
of the National today, you see that?
It's no question. And the board, there are two candidates.
So Jerry's going to dig in. Jerry's not leaving.
No, Jerry doesn't want to leave. And Jerry, he doesn't lose too many of these. So he doesn't want to leave.
This one he could lose. A little older. All the guys are gone.
Well, it's the board.
They're going to be in trouble.
It's the board. It's the board. Which one they're going to side with?
Maxson or Tarkanian?
Right. It'll be an interesting fight. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to coach. He likes to coach. He doesn't want to coach the pros. He wants to coach.
How many years on probation will they be on if he stays? 2, 3 years?
They're going to get hit. Yeah.
3 years. So in other words, we're not going to see Tarkanian in the NCAA tournament until 1985.
Might not see him for 2 tournaments.
So 1994.
You won't see him next year. I don't think there's any way the NCAA is going to knuckle under any kind of appeal for next year.
No, they're out.
So you won't see him probably after the Lloyd Daniels thing comes down, probably for another year.
Boy, oh boy, huh?
They'll appeal that too, though, and they'll have more lawsuits. But it's killed him already. I mean, look what happened to him. O'Bannon left. Tava left.
Right.
So they lost those two
both those guys, UCLA.
Talk still says they have a good team next year because he's always can find players.
He's got that guy from Garden City Community College who's an All-American.
He's got guys coming. I mean, he thinks he's going to be real good again next year. But Anderson Hunt, he has to convince him. Now, Anderson says, I keep hearing that Anderson's going to go play with Michigan so that he can go play in the NCAA tournament one more time.
Well, what would you do if you're Anderson Hunt? Do you show some loyalty to Tarkanian and stick around, or you bail out and go to the next school so you can play in the NCAAs again?
I think Anderson Hunt might go back home. I think he might, because he's the only one left of that group.
Is he an NBA player? Tough call right now.
He's a
borderline guy.
Somewhere.
Yeah, he's a borderline guy.
He's not going to be a real good NBA player.
Yeah, he's a borderline guy.
He doesn't shoot well off. He goes to the basket well, but he doesn't shoot well off the dribble. When he's wide open, he's deadly. Although he didn't have a great tournament, but again, he came up big in the last game.
No, he's also he showed with Anthony. He's not good enough to run an offense.
No, he's not a point
spot.
guard. He's not a point guard. He's a two guard. And Anthony was a two-guard early in his career, and they moved him to point.
Good thing by Anthony in today's New York Times, the last chapter of that diary that he's been doing.
Anthony's a bright kid.
Yeah, and Anthony basically came out and said, listen, right on the table. We're disappointed in everything else. We got beat by a better team on Saturday. So he, at least, did a good job as far as... Look at that whole UNLV team. I mean, you really hear too many sour grapes from them regarding losing to Duke.
I think there's a point where you are just shocked that you lose. I mean, I don't think those kids ever thought for a second that they could lose.
And I think that's why they did lose, to tell you the truth.
I think so. Well, also, they just didn't make the plays down the stretch. I mean, when you look back at that Duke game, okay, you want to break down the last 5 minutes, UNLV should have won. I mean, there's no way they should have blown a 5-point lead.
They got 1 point last 3:51 of the game.
Scored 8-1.
It was 76-71. They got one more point down the stretch.
You cannot get beat in that ballgame.
You can't do that and win a game.
Anthony or no Anthony, you cannot get beat. They got a 45-second violation.
And the 1 point they got, Mike, was a lucky point because Hill stepped in the lane with a Johnson third free throw. Yep. Or second free throw, wasn't it? Second free throw.
Second free throw. And they got another one back. But you can't get outscored 8-1 when you're an all-time great team or supposed to be an all-time great team. And they never measure up now because they didn't win. You got to win first.
Do you think Krzyzewski and this Duke ball club is going to handle all this preseason expectations and the pressures next year when they have to be the preseason number one? Can they defend first time since UCLA? Can they handle that thing or not?
Yeah, they're loaded.
Now, loading it, but I mean, can they handle it?
Yeah,
though?
They will. Better than anybody else.
Because of that, you're right. Because Krzyzewski will keep them focused.
Write them down. They'll be in the Final Four next year. I'm not saying they'll win it because we see upsets all the time. But you watch, they'll be back in the Final Four. What they have, unless somebody gets hurt, they're going to be back there.
And even if somebody, I mean, they do have a. You're going to add. Maybe could they get a little stale? I mean, they're just bringing in this Cherokee Parks guy.
They work too hard.
I mean, Kubek is, he's a marginal guy.
Now they have the side. The one thing they didn't do well this year was rebound, and now they have Cherokee Parks, who is kind of like a Bill Walton. I'm not talking about on the level of Bill Walton, but a Bill Walton-ish center. And Walton, who I talk to a lot now, says that he loves this kid, Cherokee Parks. He says he's going to be a great player.
From Huntington Beach, California.
And now you move Leitner to his more accustomed 4 spot.
Right. You
got both Hills. You got Hurley. I mean,
McCaffrey's going to get a little better.
This team is loaded. Absolutely loaded.
But you have to, there's a lot of teams.
What was the?
You're right, though. You made an excellent point because Duke is unlike a lot of these other teams who go into it, as the team to beat. They will handle it very well.
Totally unlike other teams. He does such a great job.
He does a good job.
His coaching, more than anything else, stood up to me. When you talk about a team that never misses a beat, anytime Kansas went to a trap in the half court or went to a zone, they recognized it, boom, which is Hurley, and got a great shot off it every single time. I was saying to myself, hey, stop trapping. Stop going to the zone. Every time you do it, you're giving them either a backdoor cut for a layup or a three-point shot.
And throw something else up, too. They really took care of that amoeba defense on Saturday. They got 2 layups off that amoeba defense.
They got hurt off it early. They got hurt off it the first couple. Remember, Duke was up like
15-6.
15-6, and then went to the amoeba.
And they got back in the game.
Stale, and UNLV actually took the lead, and they got some bad shots. But then they started to figure out what to do with it. But every time Kansas switched, it was like boom, 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 boom. 3-point shot or a layup. I mean, it was just tremendously drilled team, and you can't say enough about Hurley. Hurley put on an 80-minute Iron Man exhibition that will long be remembered against UNLV and those guards, and against Kansas. No, he played 80 minutes without a break. is on that level is just phenomenal.
He played great, but and more power to him, and he deserved it, and he showed you a lot of guts. But UNLV did not play UNLV defense
didn't pressure him.
in that ball game on Saturday. I'm not saying he wouldn't have handled it,
right,
but he got a break that UNLV for some reason didn't go after him with guns a-blazing 94 feet.
No, they didn't. They didn't have done that all year. We thought they'd pick him up at the timeline because they had not been a full court press team all year because they didn't have a bench. And they wanted to keep the starters on the court 37, 38 minutes, so they were not going to pressure full court.
It was a half-court trap ball club defense.
Half-court pressure defense, either good overplaying man-to-man or in the amoeba to 1-1-3, which they, always said, and he said this to me when I talked to him once this year, and he talked about any game where he has to use the amoeba defense. He puts a check next to the game. It's not a win.
That's what Billy Pack was saying on Saturday afternoon.
Because that means he couldn't beat you with his bread and butter. Any game, even the Utah game, he wasn't happy with the Utah game because he went to the amoeba in the second half and played it the whole second half against Utah.
Hey, the summation of UNLV is they had a good 7-possession stretch in the tournament against Seton Hall second half. That was it.
And when you look
7 straight possessions, they stopped them. That was it.
And when you look at their season, they had as good a regular season as any team has in the history of college basketball, and they had a lousy tournament.
Hard to believe here on the Fan. As we wait for Stevie Cohen to press that magic button, as he does. Cohen and Gelb across the way, Michael.
That was his look-away pass. Stevie looked left, pressed the button right in about 15 seconds.
Rod Strickland, Sean Elliott, Game 7 against the Trailblazers. That look-away pass.
Dogbites sponsored by Suzuki as we approach 3:31. Stevie Cohen back looking in the right direction. Here's the dog.
All right there, Michael. White Sox today signed Bo Jackson. 1-year contract, options for 2 more years for Bo. Does not prevent Jackson from playing football, this contract. Around $3 million, I suppose. A lot of it, though, is not guaranteed. So the White Sox take the chance and sign Bo. Yankees have confirmed that they've had some chats with the Pirates about Barry Bonds. You know about that? GMG Michael claims that nothing, though, is imminent. Boy, I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't touch Barry Bonds with a 60-foot pole if I'm the New York Yankees. Exhibition baseball this afternoon. The Dodgers beat the Mets 3-2. They got some run in the bottom of the third. Dwight Gooden struggled early. Bounced back, pitched pretty well. Braves over the Yankees after 6-4. That is down in West Palm Beach. John Mullen died today. Boy, he's the vice president and assistant GM of the Braves. Found dead in his West Palm Beach hotel room. He was 66 years of age. And Frankie Gustine, he's an all-time Pirate all-star shortstop of the 40s. He died today, a heart attack. He was 71. NHL playoffs tonight, 4 games. You know about the Devils in Pittsburgh. You know about the Flames against... is that tonight? That's tomorrow night. I'm sorry. Devils in Pittsburgh tonight. Rangers against the Capitals tonight. That here. And I believe the other 2 games tonight is the Bruins and Whalers and Montreal and Buffalo. I think the Smythe begins tomorrow night, and as the Norris does. Rangers, by the way, game is on the Fan following the Knick game against the Cavaliers. So you can pick up the Ranger game on the Fan following the Knick game tonight against Cleveland. In Cleveland, Cavs have lost 3 in a row. Game on the Fan is at 7:05. And 3 members now in the Metro Conference: South Florida, Virginia Commonwealth, and North Carolina Charlotte. Now, we just had a chance to talk about him, and now we're going to talk to him. And he's the coach of the national champion Duke Blue Devils, who joins Mike Francesa, Christopher Russo on the Fan. And he's Mike Krzyzewski. Coach Russo and Francesa, New York, how are you today?
I couldn't be any better.
You getting some sleep? I'm sure you're probably not yet, right?
No, I got a little bit of sleep there, but we're pretty busy, but it's a nice kind of being busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Mike, I thought about this, and I know it was talked about for 2 days, but when you left the floor after that unbelievable upset and is draining a game as we've probably seen in the Final Four, did you think it was going to be a problem to get your kids focused on playing one more game after they had beaten a team that everyone said they couldn't beat?
Yeah, definitely, Mike. I think if you assume that it's not going to be a problem, it will be. That was such a great win for our basketball team, and no one anticipated or expected that we would beat Vegas, and we did, and we expended a lot emotionally, physically, everything, every way possible. That if we didn't start focusing right away on Kansas, there would be no way we could beat them, and even if we did. Like we did everything we could. We still were very fortunate to beat Kansas. Kansas is really good, and I thought it was an unbelievably tough game for the championship game. So our maturity there for those 2 days in between Vegas and Kansas, I think, was the deciding factor. And helping us win the national championship.
You know, Mike, I've been 11 Final Fours in a row, and I've never seen two teams on a Monday night be more tired than these two teams were. Mm-hmm. Even early in the game. I mean, Leitner, did you know going in that Leitner was just not going to have his legs that night?
No, I didn't. I knew after about 2 minutes into the game, and because I know Christian real well, I mean, that's part of coaching, is to try to... Your players talk to you in many different ways. And if we only wait for them to say something, it's usually too late. And the way he was talking to me is his mannerisms on the court. He got a reaching foul right away, the first foul of the ball game, which was a good call. But he was doing tired things right away. And so I went into the thing where I tried to play him for 3-4 minutes at a time, getting him rest at TV timeouts or just prior to them. And he was mentally into the game the whole game, as was evidenced by his free throw shooting. But physically, his legs were just not there. Thomas Hill also was not there completely because he's had some hellacious defensive assignments. So Bobby, on the other hand, we could have wound him up and he'd probably play another game right after ours. Hurley was fantastic.
Amazing. It's like an Iron Man performance. I mean, 40 minutes against Vegas against what they do, and then to come back and give you 40 more when everyone else on a tie. And he's so tough, Mike, as you watch him. He picks everybody up. He's on everybody. He is a legitimate leader on the court.
Well, Mike, he has really become an outstanding leader. And during the month of March, and of course in the championship game, he did some things people-wise that he just has never done before. And again, we have to remember that he's a sophomore, and this is about the time where the outstanding players start doing some of those intangibles, so to speak, that make everybody else better. And Bobby, for us, was as valuable a player as we could have during this the last portion of the season.
Mike, I tell you, you had blown out a lot of teams in the tournament, and everybody talking about Vegas never challenged in a real big spot at 76-71, late second half on Saturday. What was going through your mind on that bench?
Well, it didn't look like we were going to be going there on Monday, and that's where Hurley hit that three-point shot.
Biggest shot of the game, no question about it.
And you know, when you think about big shots in an NCAA tournament, that will, as far as Duke University is concerned, that will be one of the biggest ever because it put us in a position to keep game pressure on them. They were up by 2 possessions, with a 5-point lead, to cut it down by 3 with 1 shot. Put a lot of game pressure on them, along with our defensive pressure, and that's what you needed to do in order to have an opportunity to beat Vegas. I thought that's something we're more accustomed to, or a Big East team, and Vegas didn't have that opportunity throughout the whole year.
Mike, I also thought that we spent so much time last week talking about how you couldn't match up with Larry and how Larry had killed everybody that he'd gone up against and that you had matchup problems inside. It turned around in the game. They couldn't go out and do some things matching up against your guys, and your interior defense, I thought, frustrated them to a point where they were actually out of their game in the second half.
Yeah, well, what we tried to do, Mike, again, we're only playing one game, and I'm not sure what would happen over a series of games if we would beat them that way, but for that one game, you just want to disrupt rhythm, the normal rhythm of a team, and I thought we were able to do that a little bit with our inside defense. And then they have matchup problems, especially with Grant Hill and Christian Leitner. Grant, to me, he's just 18. He was matched up against Augman and Jamison for the 2 games. He was incredible, really.
Yeah, Jamison does nothing, and Grant gets huge. You forget that one dunk, gets huge defensive rebounds.
Right. That, to me, the defensive rebounding of the Kansas game was the biggest single factor in beating Kansas because that's where their strength comes from. And then Grant decided that he was going to shoot free throws like Kansas does, or else he would have had an unbelievable game. But Grant, to me, was superb.
A lot of people, Mike, wrote about this, and you made comments all week that it wasn't really the case, that the frustration angle for you and for this Duke ball club, you had been there a lot of times this Final Four, but you say that really wasn't that big a factor. And the monkey off your back, you didn't really feel that monkey. That was what you said, I think, all week in Indianapolis, right?
Right. We really didn't. I think Christian Leitner put it the best, is that all these kids feel proud of what they've done in the past, and to go to the Final Four. And if we start talking about getting monkeys off backs and things like that, I think you put more pressure on a team. If anybody was really closely watching our team at the Final Four during the week here in Durham, I think they would see that we were a fairly loose group, even though we're young. And you don't want to put a whole bunch of other stuff on them, because they shouldn't have to identify with it. And really, this is a single team. Like next year, it's unbelievable. I was watching a sports show yesterday, and two commentators were saying, "Yep, they got the monkey off the back this time," and another one went right on, because now they might be picked to repeat. And
I started that, Mike, on Monday night.
No, but but that's not a monkey. I mean, what a great compliment.
That's right. You'll be preseason one. You know that.
Well, and if we are whatever we are, I mean, we'll be the defending national champions, and what an honor. What how great is that? I mean, that's the best, and that's the way I want my players to perceive that, or else. Hell, why are we educating them here to get better jobs? I mean, that means the better the job, the better the position you get, the more monkeys you have, or the more experiences you can have to do some very special things. And that's what we're trying to get across to our guys.
Just because you've had a lot of real special teams at Duke, and I know this one is, goes right to the class because you won the championship. But I bet you sometime late in that second half on Monday, Coach, and maybe after the ball game and some quiet moments, you were thinking about the first recruit with Johnny Dawkins, and maybe that '86 championship game against Louisville, maybe that '85 game I think with Washington Beach in the tournament.
Right.
You're probably thinking about those kind of moments then, because those guys really got this Duke program, and of course you got them to that high level.
Well, there's no question about it. In fact, when we were accepting the trophy right after the ball game, I had two thoughts really went right through my mind. One was how happy I was for these kids, and then because Tommy Amaker and Jay Billis are on my staff, Quinn Snyder, one of my former players, was at the game. I thought about those kids who helped prepare us to be and put us in a position where we might be at our best in this Final Four. And since that evening, in fact, Billy King, Quinn Snyder, from a few of my former assistants, we stayed up most of the evening talking about those former teams. And in the last couple of days, Johnny Dawkins, Danny Ferry, and a number of guys have called and just saying how much they felt a part of it, Mark Gallery. And that's really what we want them to feel, because they are. There's no question that we as a staff are better right now than we were in '86, and going through that experience hopefully makes you better.
Coach, you see some guys after they win, and it's like they've made it to the mountaintop. There's nothing else to do. You don't get that impression with you. You took it so much in stride. It makes me think of guys like your mentor or Bill Parcells. And Bill told me after he won his the first thing he thought about was, this is nice, but a second one will be even better. I kind of get the same feeling from you.
Well, I'm not sure if I was thinking right away about a second one.
Probably looking at the films right now.
I'll tell you what I'm doing right now is trying to make sure that our kids finish up in school in real good shape. But no, again, we don't want to be known for just doing things once. We want to be competitive all the time. And in a situation like that, I get the most satisfaction of watching how my players react. To me, it's so genuine. And then I have 3 daughters, watching them, how happy they were. And believe me, I was really happy and am really happy. But I don't think you necessarily have to. I don't blame anybody if they jump around, but that's just I just don't do that. And if we hit a last-second shot, I might. And I did after we beat Connecticut a year ago. But other than that, I'm usually fairly stable.
We have one of these proud Dukies on the phone, Coach. Jim Spanarkel, who does the net games and was listening to us right now, just called up and he wants to say hello to you. Go ahead, bring him in, Bobby. Go ahead.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, Jimmy.
Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you. Jim, it was good seeing you at the Silver Dome. I wish you were with us at the Hoosier Dome, too, because you guys certainly had those type of games in the Final Four, and as a number of Duke teams came up a little bit short, but kind of set the stage for this Duke team to actually carry it through.
Well, we were all watching and obviously very proud, and from a trying to be objective, but obviously everybody thinks it's going to be a biased remark. I just wanted to congratulate you from the standpoint of, when you look at it as a former player or somebody who's been affiliated with the university, as I have been, but looking at it, I was just so proud of not only getting the win, obviously, and finally getting one, but just the way you did it and what you stand for in terms of what you brought to the university throughout your career in terms of class and style and your dedication. I just think that all of America, sure, they react to the win and they react to the big win, especially on Monday night with March Madness, but I think just the way you've exemplified the tradition really is something that I think a lot of people can look up to and respect.
Well, we appreciate that, Jimmy. It's also good to have a Jersey guy making some big decisions for us. And Bobby Hurley, he was fantastic, wasn't he? I mean, I can't imagine running around like he did and putting pressure on and leading our team and all that for 80 minutes. And it was to me, it was incredible. I'm going to enter him into a number of marathons, I think.
What the heck? Why not?
Yeah, and just see if he collapses at some point. And I got to find out his breaking point. I haven't found that yet.
Well, see, this just strengthens the point of Francesa and Russo of just what they're missing by not focusing in on Jersey City basketball.
Right.
Cut it out, Spanarkel.
Yeah, the air must be cleaner on that side of the river then.
We'll have Bobby Hurley Sr. on the phone here in a second.
Probably hating me again.
Well, he's hated you forever. Why not?
Hey, Jimmy, thanks a lot. Keep up the good work.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks
a lot.
Interesting, Coach, about that ball club. Kentucky, they had them. That was a great game, and that was a young team, that team.
Right.
And everyone thought they'd get back, and they never did.
They never did. You guys, obviously, the same kind of situation now a little bit, huh, with a young team.
You never know, Mike. That's the thing, people, and it's so amazing what you've accomplished in this era of such parity. To get there so many times, I mean, it's so tough to get there. One bad game, one bad 10-minute stretch, you're gone.
Or one injury, Mike, and that's where the luck comes in. If we've been fairly lucky in that we have not had serious injury or sickness in the month of March. Bricky got hurt in the Final Four game against Seton Hall, but we had already accomplished the Final Four, and I'm not sure if we would have beaten Seton Hall anyway, even if he was healthy. But there's a little bit of luck, and sometimes in your matchups too, certain teams you get matched up against, that your style is a little bit better than suited for that team. That's why playing Vegas and beating Vegas for this team and winning the national championship was a must, because for me, as I'm more of a basketball purist, it kind of legitimizes the championship. If we had not played Vegas, I'm not. Hey,
I understand what you're saying.
I'd take the championship.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that.
It was a little extra better, though, having knocked off the real top team,
Right. Right. It's kind of like in the past Final Fours, when we beat Temple, Georgetown, and Connecticut. We always beat a number one seed to get there, and again, that made me feel better about what we accomplished and put it in better perspective, because in the coaching profession, probably our biggest game, if you ask most coaches, it would be the regional championship, because in the regional championship, you then attain, by winning it, you attain the Final Four, which is the dream. And then, after you attain that, how do you learn how to handle that in order to put yourself in a position to win the national title? So you're talking about a number of different psychological levels there that you're dealing with, and but we're really proud of the path that we took, and of course beating two tough teams in the Final Four.
Mike, in all honesty, when you sat down last week and you had all this time to prepare for them, and you knew you had a team that could do some different things and more athletic than last year, did we make too much a fuss about how good they were, or did you just do things real well? I mean, you have a chance with a team of your caliber to beat them, but did you really think, hey, we're going to have to do a lot of things really well, and they're not going to have a great game, or did you think you could go in there and match up with them?
I thought because of what